Hi, guys. Welcome back to Crime Time with Jess. I know it's been a while, a long while. I really wish I had covered Donna's case and Charlie's case because I've been watching this entire case prior to Charlie even getting arrested. So I'm not an expert on the Adelson case. It's a pretty complex thing, but I know enough, a lot, okay? I think I've listened to about every single Charlie and Donna call that has been released and all of the things. But so I have a theory, right? And I want to get to this. And my theory, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, and then I'm going to tell you why I think this is. There's was a lot of talk about who was the quote unquote mastermind behind all of this, right? And I see a lot of people say, Wendy, um, and I definitely think Wendy is involved. That is my biased opinion. But I actually think the hiring of the hitman was Charlie's idea. And from all that I've listened to them talk to themselves or to each other, from the testimony of Charlie's friends, it makes the most sense to me. Because here's how I envision this going down. I envision Wendy, which Wendy's a whole other stream. Like Wendy is an entirely whole other stream. But I picture Wendy incessantly complaining to Donna about Dan, about all of the court filings, the divorce, the kid, all of it, right? And then I picture Donna doing exactly what Donna does, complaining incessantly to Charlie about Wendy's life. And we've heard Donna do this before with a guy named Dave. If you guys have listened to that call, this is after Dan Markel is murdered. And Donna calls Charlie, and almost the entire phone call, she talks about how important it is that Wendy dates this man. The boys love him. It's just, she has to date this guy. Charlie and Donna both say, like, you can't hit the lottery twice. They're both basically admitting that Wendy marrying Dan was her hitting the lottery the first time. And then Donna very much saw this Dave guy as being Wendy hitting the lottery twice. Now, throughout this call, Charlie keeps reassuring Donna that he is going to talk to Wendy. Basically, he's going to fix this. He's going to fix it. He's going to be mama's hero. He's going to take care of his little sister, and he's going to talk some sense into her about who she should date, right? Because there's always this weird common theme with Charlie and Donna's phone calls, and it's Donna obsessing over Wendy and Charlie like really wanting to be like seen by his mom or wanting to be fretted over in the same way that Wendy is, but he never quite is, right? So, like, whatever it takes to get Donna to, basically pat him on the head, good boy, Charlie, you're so great, he's going to do. And so I think that Charlie, being the person that he is, wanting to be seen as a guy that, makes millions of dollars, drives around Miami in sports cars, runs women, and he's got some connections to some bad guys. So I think it's just this, again, my theory, but I think he talked to Catherine McBanawa first when she gave the go ahead of, yeah, like I know someone that can do that. I picture him then presenting to Donna this idea. And I've listened to Charlie enough, I think. Charlie repeats himself a lot and he talks a lot. And so I could sort of just hear him saying something like, Mom, like, I'm telling you, like, I can do this. I know someone, it won't cost that much, but problem can be solved. Like, I can do this. And, I've just like envisioned all of this in my head. I don't believe that it was Donna's idea to hire a hitman. I don't believe it was even Wendy's idea. I don't think their minds went there. I mean, Donna is a woman that is so not street smart that she actually washed money because she thought that's how you launder money. So, this is how not street smart she is. I think Donna was fully prepared, clearly, to make Dan Markel's life an absolute living hell in whatever capacity she could. And I think Donna is a person that when she gets mad, she says a lot of insane stuff, like putting the kids in Nazi uniforms and stuff like that. But I don't think Donna's mind went to a hitman, but I think Charlie's did. But once he presented this idea to her, she didn't say no. And clearly it had to be presented to Wendy as well because there's only one person that knew where Dan Markel would be and his schedule, and that was Wendy. Um, but I want to, when I first listened to Donna have her outburst in court, we'll call it, but at her sentencing, when I first listened to it, I was like, holy crap, here's Donna being crazy at her sentencing. She used her sentencing to really try to state her case, that she was innocent. And it's so unbelievable to people. How can you possibly sit here before everyone and say that you're innocent? But I listened to it again and I tried to see it through Donna's lens. And what I think the reason that Donna and Harvey both got up there and told everyone how innocent she was. I'm going to play this part of her sentencing. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play this one part and then I want to talk about it. So let me go here.
Love that Danny would have given them if he were alive. It is interesting how the state can't make up its mind about who is what they call the, quote, mastermind behind this murder. In both of Catherine Magbanaw's trials, the state claimed she was the mastermind behind Danny's murder. In my son Charlie Adelson's trial, they claimed he was the mastermind. And now in my trial, they claimed that I, this grandma, was the mastermind behind the murder. I had no idea that other people planned to cut Danny's life short. And the people who did this are exactly where they deserve to be. But I had no knowledge that this horrible, evil act was going to take place. If I had become aware of this plan before Danny was murdered, I would have stopped it. With not one iota of actual evidence, the state convinced a Tallahassee jury that I solicited and conspired with other people to have Danny killed. Where is the evidence prior to the murder? The evidence.
Okay, so you hear what she says. Where is the evidence prior to the murder, right? And I think that she has convinced herself, Harvey as well, that because it wasn't Donna's idea, Donna didn't interact with the killers. She didn't orchestrate it. She instigated it, but she didn't orchestrate it. So in her mind, she's innocent. Where is the proof? This is what she's asking the court. Where is the proof before he was killed that I was involved? And I really, I don't think that there was a ton of proof, to be honest. But I really wonder if Charlie presented this idea. Clearly, she didn't say no. Neither did Wendy. But Charlie talks a lot, and Charlie tries to be a big Billy badass. So I wonder how seriously did Donna take him? Was she like, okay, yeah, Charlie's definitely going to do this? Or was she like, maybe Charlie can do this? I don't know. But I think because like her and Harvey see themselves as so far away from the actual killers. Again, they didn't orchestrate it. They didn't hire the hitman. They didn't, Donna's the instigator. Um, Charlie's the orchestrator. And Wendy is the beneficiary of all of it, basically, you know. But yeah, so I think this is why Donna is saying what she's saying. I do think she's very much lying about, if I knew there was a plan, I would have stopped it. I think she very much knew there was a plan and she did nothing to stop it whatsoever. But the dynamics of their family are very interesting because the person that orchestrated this murder, which would be Charlie, stood absolutely nothing to gain. Nothing. He didn't financially benefit. He didn't socially benefit. But the only thing that Charlie got out of this was his mother's approval. He was the hero. He solved Wendy's problem. He solved Donna's problem. Because the thing with Donna and Wendy's book is insanely telling. I'm actually surprised that Georgia Kappelman has not read more from this book or introduced more of this book. Maybe she's saving that for Wendy's trial. We'll stay tuned. But the book is just damning. It's so damning. I mean, Wendy in this book, Lily Stone is basically Wendy. Josh Stone is her husband, who is a English professor at North Florida State University. So basically, she just puts on, North in front of Florida State University, and it's the same thing. But this book, you know, Lily Stone is an immigration lawyer, like Wendy. Um, Josh and Lily do get a divorce. Lily adopts a kid, and when Josh asks if the child is going to have his last name, Lily tells him no, that the child is going to have her last name. Okay. Hang on just a second, guys. So, but Wendy, when I really didn't want to go into Wendy, I wanted to stick with Charlie. But while I'm on the topic, I don't know how many streams I'll do about this, but I just wanted to talk to you guys about it, basically. So, but I think the number one thing with Wendy, and it's glaringly obvious, is Wendy cares about her career first, foremost, before anything else, definitely before her ex-husband, before her children, before her family. Wendy's career is everything to her. Her education is everything to her, right? And so having a husband that you really didn't want, because Donna is the one that found Dan Markel. Donna is the one that went on J Dating, which is a Jewish dating site, and found Dan Markel. And Wendy, very bluntly and honestly, on her podcast, she had a podcast. I think she only did one podcast, but she, openly just says that she was not in love with Dan. What was love anyway? Love fades, right? So he looked good on paper. She wanted to have cute kids with him. And that was good enough for her. Because I don't think it's what Wendy wanted at all. I think Wendy wanted to be the exact opposite of Donna. Donna, the self-described domestic coordinator, I think Wendy wanted to be anything other than that. I don't think Wendy liked being shackled to a man or feeling second to him. This is evident with Ruth Markel, Dan's mother, saying that Dan had told his family not to really talk about his Harvard education because it made Wendy feel bad. And that is that's really something that's very telling. Most people are proud of their spouses and their accomplishments, but Wendy is extremely driven and ambitious. And I don't think that a husband was something Wendy like aspired to. I think Wendy aspired to be at the top herself. But Donna, being the meddling, instigating Donna, finds Wendy a boyfriend, Dan Markel. And Wendy goes along with it, marries him, pops out 2 kids. And it's very clear through her book that might as well be a autobiography. I'm being sarcastic, but it might as well be. But she was very, very unhappy in her marriage. And, poor Dan, because I think Dan did love Wendy. I think Dan was very happy with his family. But I think Wendy absolutely hated the power structure, the dynamic of it, the having the husband, the head of the house. We have to live where he works. Wendy, in her own right, I mean, she went to Cambridge and studied. That's a very significant accomplishment, you know. She graduated, magna cum laude. So, yeah, Wendy, very, very book smart. And I think that, she wanted to be on her own. She wanted to be with Dan. And I think that's why it was so easy for her to plan very strategically according to Dan and Wendy's mutual friends. She came into the police station and interviewed with them. And she said, it was so meticulously planned with Wendy leaving Dan. Donna had helped Wendy secure an apartment. Dan goes away to give a speech in New York, and Wendy takes anything she wants in the house. Her stuff, some of Dan's stuff, the kids' stuff, and she leaves the divorce papers on the bed. Imagine how cold that is. That is extremely cold. Um, so Dan flies back, walks into the house, sees these divorce papers. his family is over. And so you can imagine, as he's a human being, that, sadness and anger were probably all mixed in. And I think this is why Dan was so litigious, always taking Wendy to court, always filing things. I do think he was angry, and I think he had a right to be angry, but I will say this, because I've thought about this so often. I really wonder if if Dan would be alive if he was not so litigious with her, because I think it was extremely threatening to Wendy. I also don't believe that the only reason that or the biggest source of contention for Wendy was not being able to leave. I think it was definitely a major agitator, but I don't think it was the sole reason. Um, Dan and his lawyer, finding that Wendy committed fraud and had given her notice, had given her lawyer notice, and he's killed literally on the day that his lawyer was going to file this. This would have been major for Wendy. Dan's attorney has, spoken out. And what he said was that he told Dan, you know, if I file this, it is going to be very damaging to Wendy. Like, she could have had her bar license taken away, and probably would have, because she was committing a crime as a lawyer. So keeping with the theme that Wendy's number one thing in life, period, is her career, to have Dan threatening that with fraud and her law license being taken away and her career being destroyed, essentially. I don't think there was any way in the world that Wendy was going to let that happen. And so I think this was all a perfect storm of sorts, with Charlie going and again playing Billy Badass and securing a hitman through Catherine McBanoa. This is why I think that Wendy said nothing. It really would take care of all of her problems. Wendy is the number one beneficiary of all of this, without a doubt. Donna benefits because Donna was very interested in the kids. Because if she had control of the kids and played a large part in their life, taking them to school, picking them up, babysitting them, having them all the time, Wendy would have to essentially stay close to her. And Donna knew this. Donna was going to do what Donna did best, be a domestic coordinator. So this was advantageous for Wendy because Dan would be out of the picture. There's no more threatening, court filings or taking away her bar license or accusing her of fraud. There's no more her shackled in Tallahassee. Now Wendy can live her life. She can move to Miami with her parents. They will essentially raise her children. And Wendy can focus on her career and her life. And I think that's really what she wanted to do. I don't see anything that suggests that Wendy really had great ambitions to be a mother, or definitely not to be a wife. That just doesn't seem to be who she is at all. I think Donna wanted her to be this sort of person, but I don't think that's who Wendy wanted to be, you know? So again, I think that Donna and Harvey are both claiming innocence because it was actually Charlie's idea. He actually secured the hitman again, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Riviera, through Catherine McBanoa. And so they see themselves as innocent. And I think that Wendy also they delude themselves. You know, Wendy knows she was a part of this, in my opinion. Wendy definitely knows she was a part of this. But I think she justifies it in her mind in the same sort of way that Donna does. In the way that, like, it wasn't my idea. I didn't, you know, ask Catherine McManaway to get her baby's daddy to do this. You know, all I did was just tell my brother, like, what time Danny would be home or, like, what his schedule was, but we didn't talk anything further than that. Like, I can see Wendy justifying it in her mind that way. But the fact of the matter remains, without Wendy, Dan Markel would still be alive. And, you know, one other thing about Charlie, and then I'm going to end the stream. I find some of his jail calls interesting because when we listen to other inmates, you know, let's say Wade Wilson, for instance, you don't hear any remorse, or you don't really hear anything like how he feels. Charlie talks so darn much, he'll tell you everything. But it's very interesting that he has told multiple people, you know, right after his conviction, his parents, a male friend of his, Janice, the lady that lived in his house. You know, he tells them all, like, I think I'm just in shock. Like, this doesn't feel real. Like, my life is really over. I hate myself. Let's listen to that real quick. Let's listen to Charlie. I really want to listen, or I really want to listen to him also throw Wendy straight under the bus. Charlie and Donna, especially Charlie though. Charlie's clearly pissed off, okay, that Wendy is out living her life and he is spending the rest of his life in prison. And you know, he skips all of the part of, like, stapling money and securing a hitman and all of that. And he claims, you know, he was convicted because of Wendy's book and because Wendy drove past the crime scene. So he's so mad about this, right? Because he didn't know, clearly. All right. So we're gonna play Charlie talking to Donna. This is the day after, I believe, of his conviction, life without parole.
Service again.
Yeah.
No, I know. Listen, I know I'm belaboring it because I got nothing else in my head, and everything is bad. So it's one thing I cannot focus on and rehash.
That's right. That's right. It's fine.
It's like it gives me something to focus on or talk about. Otherwise, everything else just is really hard for me right now.
I know that.
It's like one thing. Everything is a trigger.
If you live in a Wyoming zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years,
I don't even know what to say. I've never been like this, but it's like you even have I always focus on something. This is like you know, I focus on the appeal, and I think about it. I'm like, check out your last name, check out where you are, and you didn't have one fucking juror with all the guns that you brought out of blazing. Yeah. With all the work that was put into it, with everything that you fucking brought to the table, you couldn't get one. You couldn't even get them to deliberate.
Yes.
You couldn't even get them to. Dan was telling them what wires to listen to, what time. They didn't have to listen to the whole wire. Go to 3 minutes and 36 seconds. No, they weren't even listening. They weren't even taking notes. Like, their minds were made up. Dan was telling them to go to this wire and to play the wire and hear it for themselves at 3 minutes and 34 seconds. You know what Georgia did? She had a photocopy of the transcript with the words highlighted. So you could read it on the screen for yourself right there. You didn't have to go back to the jury room. Read it right now. I'll read it to you. Like, I almost feel like, you there?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost feel like Dan should have had Dan made it for 50.
It's kind of funny listening to Charlie complain about how efficient Georgia Cappleman was.
Grade level. He should have made it for a third grade level. He should have had the photocopies with the highlighted words saying it's not done like this. I know for a fact. You know, but like everything they explained away.
Yeah, but they heard that.
they
They actually heard that over and over. It's just, I don't know what didn't penetrate. I don't know.
I think the case got, honestly, I think the case got dumbed down to she's showing up at the scene of the crime. He's telling me she didn't know. If she knew, then they're involved. If she wasn't showing up, okay, I could believe it maybe, but her showing up is the icing on the cake. And that's why they opened with it, and that's why they closed with it, and they even gave their simple explanation, which is she couldn't help herself. And look, 99 out of 100 times, if, you know, in a case like that, I guess it would make the most sense, except that's not what happened.
No.
But I think the jury grasped a hold of, you know, between that and the TV, they had two things that were coincidences that you really don't have explanations for.
Yeah.
And it was and it came up the day of the murder and the day of the bump. Why is everybody talking TV talk?
Donna's silence is so deafening. I could tell, you know, because there's multiple calls between them. The day he was sentenced, the day he was, you know, there's multiple calls of them, and you just hear in real time of exactly what, you know, he's thinking. But Donna is so quiet, and I could feel her hating what he was saying because he is absolutely implicating Wendy.
And the TV joke ties it all in 1, 2, 3, and then she's showing up at the scene of the crime. I mean, I had somebody ask me that like a couple of years ago. It's like, did that really happen? Like, I go, trust me. Like, nobody knew. Like, she showed up. They're like, man, that's like 1 in a million.
Nobody knew that she showed up. That's like 1 in a million. Yeah. So Charlie definitely did not know that Wendy drove to the scene of the crime. And I think he's so pissed off about that because it's so damning. You know, and in his twisted mind, I think he's like, you know, I did all this work. I secured this hitman for you, solved all the problems in your life. And then you're so stupid. You ride to the crime scene. You know, Charlie Adelson think.
Yeah.
And I go, yep. So you mean to tell me 1 in a million you're right, the other 1 in a million you're innocent? You know, even if you think it's 1 in 10,000, now you're starting off the debate saying, listen, 1 in 10,000 times I'm right. All right, you want to bet I'm right on this one? You can't win it. You can't. Once somebody in their head says, if that's really her explanation, what are the fucking chances? That's near impossible for me to. That's what. I guarantee you, if they pulled jurors, that's going to be the thing that's stuck in their head. That they knew right then and there it was either a coincidence or it was a lie. And the coincidence has to be 1 in 10,000. And maybe they're sitting there saying it's one. I'm saying 1 in 10,000. Maybe the dudes are saying it's 1 in a million. She had to be a part of it. She's showing up at the. You know, they always say like an expression. It's like you showed up at the scene of the crime. Right. Like they always use it in like detective movies and like. Right. It's a lie. Like you're at the scene of you showed up at the scene of the crime, but you didn't know anything. Like
People start a fire and they show up to watch it. I mean, it's just been on TV forever.
it's always the. I mean, it would be like. I mean, you know what it would be like? Do you remember? That mafia guy in New York, Paul Castellano?
What's the last name?
Castellano. He was shot in or out of Spark Steakhouse in like downtown Manhattan.
Oh, yes. Okay, I didn't remember the name.
It was like that's when John Gotti became like you know, the head of the Gambino crime family. Is when Paul Costello got shot, and they did it like it was in like downtown Manhattan at Sparks Steakhouse. It was sitting on the news enough. That's all I know.
Wow.
But that's it was like real violent, and it was like he was either getting out of his car or walking into his car out of the steakhouse, right?
Yeah.
And that would be like saying somebody who absolutely hated Paul Castellano, like who had beef with him of some sorts, like who lived, you know, 15 miles away, like pulling up at the scene 30 minutes later. You know, or even like being there while this actually happened.
Right.
You know, like sitting in the restaurant while this happened, and like it's one of those things where you go like, okay, like this guy's getting this is happening, Manhattan's a big city. Okay, why the hell was this guy here? You could say, well, he was eating dinner the same night at the same restaurant. Okay, maybe. But like he was going someplace, he was going to a liquor store, passed 4 liquor stores, took alternate routes, and ended up right there at that time. Like that's a good story. Like that sets the tone for everything else. Like that puts a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. Does.
You know.
Sure.
Yeah. You should have just in the car. From your house to his house. Like, what did they say? Was it a 17-minute drive?
I think so. I think that's what they said. Yeah.
I mean, and then they put up slides to show other stores were like 5 minutes from her house. She's driving 17 minutes. I mean, I get it. I still would go to CVS right by Nova.
Yeah. It's close to one. So we go.
Oh, and I clicked that same pharmacy across the street from Nova. So I don't know why. Maybe you can do that with liquor stores or pharmacies, but like, I still went to the CVS liquor store, the CVS pharmacy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, like, what I'm just saying is, like, if I ever work at get an appeal, and listen, Dan told me this. I'm sure he told you the same thing. He said, you know, appellate lawyers are expensive. You know, spend some money on the appellate lawyer, but don't look to spend a fortune because you know, hope. You got to give yourself some hope. It's going to take a year and a half, 2 years, and maybe something will happen, and maybe someone will write something about the case. Something will come forward. Then you got to get a new trial. And I always, you know, what sickens me is that.
Yeah, Dan Roshbaum was definitely telling him not to spend a lot on an appellate attorney because Charlie Adelson is guilty as heck. And his chances for getting an appeal, getting a new trial are basically slim to none. So I think Dan was like, you know, don't waste all your money doing that. You're going to be here. You want to take care of yourself for the rest of your life, basically. But yeah, so you see Charlie really throwing Wendy under the bus, and you should listen to this whole call. This is Pretty Lies and Alibis is the channel. And listen to these calls for yourself. This call in particular is an hour and 13 minutes long. So there's a lot said. There is a lot said. He goes over and over and over Wendy driving by that scene of the crime. So yeah, that is my theory. Tell me what you think. Write your comments. Tell me what your theories are. Whose idea was it to hire a hitman? Was it Wendy's idea? Was it Donna's idea? Or was it Charlie's idea? In my opinion, it was actually Charlie's idea. So, okay, until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye for now.